Hello everyone and welcome back to our Python beginning course. In the previous video we installed Python and Visual Studio Code and we prepared our programming environment. So far we have learned the basic concepts we need before writing real programs. In today's lesson we are going to learn about one of the most important topics in Python, data types and variables. We will understand what types of data Python can store and how different values work and how we can save this data using variables. This is also our final theories lesson, and starting from the next lesson we will begin writing code and using these concepts in real examples. So let's start. Before we start creating programs, we need to understand what kind of information we can work with. In programming, every piece of data has a type. A data types tell Python what kind of value we are working with and how Python should handle that value. For example, the number 100 is an integer and the number 90.99 is a float, and the word Python is a string. Understanding type of data is very important because almost everything we do in programming is based on storing and working with different types of data. So let's start with numbers. Python has different types of numbers, but the two most common ones for beginners are integers and floats. The first one is integer or int. Integers are whole numbers without decimal points. For example, 180 minus 5 or any others. And the second one is float. Floats are numbers that contain decimal points. For example, 1.75 or 19.99, and Python automatically understands whether a number is an integer or a float based on the value we give it. The next data type is string, also called as a str. Strings are used to store text. Whenever we want Python to understand something as a text, we put it in quotation marks. We can use double or single quotation marks, and you can see example of this in the image. Strings are used everywhere in programming. Names, messages, usernames, and many other types of data information are stored as a string. Now let's talk about list. A list allows us to store multiplied values in a single variable. Lists are created using a square brackets. You can see an example in the image below. And for example, we can store different colors, red, blue, and green. A list maintains the order of the items, and unlike some other data types, we can change its value later. And lists are very useful because in real world applications, we often need to work with sets of data. For example, a list of users, products, or scores. The next data type is tuple. A tuple is very similar to a list because it can store multiple values. The main difference is that tuples cannot be changed after they are created, and tuples use parentheses instead of square brackets. For example, coordinates can be stored as a 20 and 10. And we use tuples when we have a data that should stay the same and should not be modified. Now let's look at dictionaries. A dictionary is a very important data types in Python. Instead of storing values only by position, dictionaries store information using key-value pairs. For example, imagine we want to store information about a person. We can have a name Alex and age 20. The key helps us identify the value, and dictionaries are used a lot in the real world programming, especially when we're working with the data from the websites and APIs and databases. The last data type we will learn today is Boolean, also called bool. Boolean values only have two possible options, true or false. They are used when we need to make a decision in our program. For example, is the user logged in, or is the password correct, or is the game finished? All of these questions can have a true or false answer. Later in the course, we will use Boolean values with the conditions and decision making. Now that we know different type of data, we need a way to store and use this data. This is where variables come in. A variable is like a container that stores information. We create a variable by giving it a name and assigning a value to it. For example, name equal Alex. Here, the variable name stores the string valued Alex, or age equal 20. The variable age stored an integer value 20. Variables allow us to save information and use it multiple times in our programs. Let's combine everything we learned in one example. Here we have different variables storing different types of data. The variable name stores a string, variable age stores an integer, variable height stores a float, and the variable is a student stores a boolean value, and the variable skills stores a list. This is how real programs work, and they store different types of information using variables. So today we'll learn the theory behind data types and variables. Remember, this is our last theories lesson, and starting from the next lesson, we will begin writing code and creating real programs step by step. Thank you for your watching, and I will see you in the next lesson, where we finally start coding with Python.